All right, so procurement. Not exactly the first thing that pops to mind for a deep dive, am I right? But these role catcher guides have definitely piqued my curiosity.
Oh, you're in for a ride, trust me. It's funny how procurement support officers are like the unsung heroes, right? You don't
Ah,
really notice them until, bam, something goes wrong.
yeah.
They're the ones keeping the wheels turning, making sure companies have everything they need, prices right, legal sides covered, the whole 9 yards. Talk about impact.
Now that you mention it, they do sound kind of like secret agents, part FBI, part master negotiator, according to this guide.
You hit the nail on the head. They need that eagle eye for detail, that organization, and knowing those compliance rules inside and out. But, and here's the twist, they've got to be sharp negotiators too. Spotting a deal a mile off, that's key.
So, wait, hold up. It's not all just like shuffling papers and stuff. They're actually out there in the thick of it, making deals happen.
You bet. This guide, it really hammers home the communication side of things. It's all about building those relationships with suppliers, getting where they're coming from, and striking those win-win deals. Way more dynamic than people think, that's for sure.
I'm starting to see that, yeah. Sounds like the perfect gig for someone who doesn't like to be stuck in a rut. Although, speaking of, the guide does mention some downsides, doesn't it? Long hours, stressful situations, that whole shebang.
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses. Got to be upfront about that. Definitely not a 9 to 5 kind of deal, and things can get pretty hectic, especially when you're up against deadlines or those dreaded supply chain hiccups. You got to be able to think on your feet, adapt. That's crucial.
Okay, so maybe not for the faint of heart then. But hey, if you thrive under pressure, love a fast-paced environment, this could be right up your alley.
100%. And you know what I really dig about Rule Catcher's take on it?
Yeah.
They don't leave you hanging. They lay out this crystal clear career path. You see the steps from assistant all the way up to manager. Each level, they break down what you're responsible for, really gives you a roadmap.
That's awesome. So you're telling me you could start in this role, work your way up the ladder. That's got to be encouraging for anyone considering this field. So what kind of skills are we talking about needing to climb those ranks?
And that's where things get juicy. Of course, you need that solid base, right? Procurement processes, regulations, best practices, all that jazz. But here's the kicker. The guide really highlights those softer skills too. Communication, teamwork, being a problem-solving whiz, that kind of stuff.
So it's not just about crunching numbers and living in spreadsheets all day.
Not a chance. Think about it. You're constantly interacting with people. Suppliers, internal teams, stakeholders, the whole lot. Those people skills, they're your secret weapon.
This is making me think back to that time I tried to haggle for a rug in Morocco. Maybe I missed my true calling.
Never know, right? Speaking of landing the job, though, RoleCatcher. They've got this whole section on interview tips. Pure gold, if you ask me.
Oh, spill the tea. What kind of questions should people be ready for in a procurement interview?
Well, you've got your classics, right?
Right.
Tell me about yourself, that whole song and dance. Why this role? But then they're going to want to see what you're made of, dig a little deeper. How'd you handle a supplier dropping the ball on a deadline? What's your strategy for dodging risks in the supply chain? That sort of thing.
So you really got to know your stuff, huh? Organized, detail-oriented, those are just buzzwords. They want the receipts, the proof in the pudding.
100%. And that, my friend, is where those soft skills we talked about come back in. Be ready with those stories, the ones that show off your communication style, how you handle problems like a boss, how you stay cool under pressure.
Man, this is giving me a whole new level of respect for what these guys do. It's not all as simple as it seems, that's for sure. But let's talk about those curveballs, those scenario-based questions. Any tips on how to handle those?
RoleCatcher, they're all about that research. Before you even step foot in the interview room, do your homework. Know their industry, what they need on the procurement side, even their company vibe. That way, when you answer, it's tailored. It shows you've put in the effort.
So it's not just about knowing procurement in a vacuum, it's about applying it to their world, right? It's like you're already thinking like one of them.
Bingo. That kind of prep, it shows them you're serious, that you're not just there to clock in and out.
This is all fantastic stuff. I feel like we're just scratching the surface, though. We've covered the skills, the interview game. But what about the day-to-day grind? What are some tasks a procurement support officer actually tackles?
You're right. We got to get down to brass tacks. Imagine this. A company needs, say, 10,000 custom-made widgets for their big product launch. It's on the procurement support officer to find that diamond in the rough supplier, the one who can deliver those widgets on time, within budget, and matching all the specs.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Finding the best deal on a massive order like that, that's impressive.
For sure. And it's not just about finding the cheapest option either. It's about digging deeper, looking at the supplier's track record, their reliability, are they playing by the rules ethically? It's about making those strategic choices that line up with the company's values, their long-term goals, the whole picture.
Oh, hadn't even considered that aspect. So they're not just focused on the here and now, they're thinking long game, ethics. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And that's something we'll definitely be diving into as we go deeper into this whole world of procurement. Trust me, these officers, they're playing a much bigger role than most people realize.
So we've got our procurement support officer, right? Juggling suppliers, ethics, massive orders. Sounds like a lot of pressure to get it right every single time.
Oh, absolutely. They've got to have that attention to detail like you wouldn't believe. One tiny slip up, one missed deadline, even a small regulation overlooked, it can snowball on you, become a huge headache for the company.
Yikes, yeah. Now I'm seeing why this guide harps on about compliance so much. It's not just a box-ticking exercise, it's about protecting the company, right?
Exactly. A good procurement support officer, they're like the safeguard, making sure every purchase, every deal, it all lines up with the rule book, internal policies, industry standards, and of course, Uncle Sam's got to be happy too. Guardians of compliance, that's what they are.
I like that. Guardians of compliant. So they're combing through contracts, making sure everything's legit. What happens if something seems off? Do they, like, put on their detective
Yeah,
hats?
well, maybe not the trench coat and magnifying glass, but yeah.
Hmm.
They've got to be comfortable asking the tough questions, digging for information. Actually, the guide mentions this case study. A procurement support officer noticed something fishy with a supplier's sustainability claims.
Oh, no way. So much for being eco-friendly. What went down?
Turns out they were exaggerating big time. But because this procurement support officer, they were on top of their game, doing their due diligence, the company dodged bullet.
Wow, they saved them from a PR disaster, stayed true to their values. Talk about an impact player.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Those small details, they can make or break a company's reputation, their bottom line. Procurement support officers, they might not always be in the limelight, but their work is essential.
Okay, I think we've established this is way more than just pushing purchase orders, right? Legal stuff, ethics, risk assessment, heavy stuff, especially for someone just starting out.
You're not wrong. And that's
Mm.
why I think this career path RoleCatcher lays out. It's so valuable. You see how you can level up at each stage, gain that experience, take on more, and eventually you're in a leadership role.
Let's break that down a bit more, the whole progression thing. We talked about the different levels, assistant to manager, but what does that actually look like on the ground?
All right, so picture this. You're fresh out of the gate procurement assistant. You're probably handling purchase orders, dipping your toes into market research, getting to know the company's systems. It's all about learning the ropes.
So lots of hands-on stuff, getting a feel for how things work.
Exactly. Now, fast forward a bit. You're a procurement coordinator. You're running point on smaller projects, making sure everyone's playing by the rules, maybe even helping to shape those sourcing strategies. More responsibility, you're starting to see the bigger picture.
Makes sense, that natural progression from those day-to-day tasks to more strategic thinking.
You got it. And as you gain that experience, that expertise, you might find your niche, right? Maybe you become the contract whiz, the supplier whisperer. That's where those individual strengths come in.
Love that, finding your specialty. But what about those who are aiming for the top? That procurement manager title, what's that climb like?
Ah, that's where those leadership qualities come into play. You're not just managing processes anymore. You're leading a team, setting the goals, keeping an eye on the budget, and rubbing shoulders with the higher-ups. You're basically the architect of the whole procurement shebang.
Man, it's inspiring to see how one role can branch out like that. But let's be real, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are wondering about the bottom line. What's the pay like in this field?
The million-dollar question, right? The guide touches on it, but got to add that disclaimer. Salary, it's always going to depend. Location, company size, how much experience you bring to the table, and of course, those negotiation skills we talked about.
Right, got to put those skills to good use, even for your own paycheck. But ballpark figure, what are we looking at?
All right, so RoleCatcher saying, starting out as a procurement support officer, you're probably looking at something between $40,000 to $60,000 a year.
Not bad, not bad at all, especially for a starting point, right? And who knows where it can go from there.
Exactly. Plus, don't forget those little extras, bonuses, benefits, and of course, those fancy certifications we talked about. Those can add some serious zeros to that paycheck.
Now, those certifications, those sound like a big deal. What kind of impact can those have on someone's career trajectory?
Think of it like this. They're your power-up. You're showing those potential employers that you're serious, that you're dedicated to being at the top of your game. They can give you that extra edge, open doors to those higher paying gigs, the specialized roles.
Like leveling up in a video game. New
Mhm.
skills, new knowledge. Suddenly you're playing in a whole different league. What are some of these, like, coveted
Oh
certifications?
yeah, there are some big names out there. The guide specifically mentions the CPSM, Certified Professional in Supply Management. That one carries a lot of weight in the field. Then there's the CPPB, Certified Professional Public Buyer. That one's more for the public sector, folks. And let's not forget about the CPPO and the CIPS. Those are internationally recognized.
Wow, the variety is impressive. Really shows you how much there is to learn in this field.
And it's not just about checking a box either. These certifications, they mean business. You need the education, the experience, and you got to pass some pretty intense exams. They're proof that you understand procurement inside and out, ethics, regulations, the whole nine yards.
So it's a commitment, but it's a way to become like the go-to expert.
Exactly. And that kind of dedication, trust me, it pays off. Bigger paychecks, more opportunities, the whole package.
This is all incredibly insightful, but I gotta ask, what about someone who's listening thinking, this sounds amazing, but I don't have that traditional procurement background. Can career changers make it in this world?
Absolutely. In fact, the guide even touches on this. It's something we should unpack a bit more as we wrap up this deep dive.
Career changers, right. You were saying they have a shot in procurement. I'll admit, I kind of always pictured someone with, the business degree, years of supply chain experience, that whole deal.
Yeah, that's a common one for sure. Yeah. But here's the thing. Procurement, it's changing. Companies are wising up, realizing those transferable skills, even from fields you wouldn't expect, they can be gold.
Okay, now that's interesting. Transferable skills, like what? Give me an example.
All right, let's say you're a journalist. I know.
Yeah.
You're probably thinking, procurement, what's that got to do with me? But think about it. All that research you did, analyzing information, that sharp eye for detail, communication skills, building relationships with sources. Procurement, it's the same game, different field.
Whoa, you're right. Instead of chasing a story, you're chasing the best deal, making sure things are ethical. It's like investigative journalism, but with contracts.
Exactly. Or let's say you're an event planner. Hold up, you're thinking, that's all about flowers and seating charts, right? But event planners, they're logistics ninjas. Negotiation, budgeting, risk management, procurement support officers need that stuff in spades.
Mind blown. It's amazing how those skills translate. So anyone listening who maybe doesn't have that traditional business background, they shouldn't just write themselves off, right?
Not a chance. In fact, they might even have an edge. Fresh perspective, a different way of looking at things. The key is highlight those transferable skills. On your resume, in your interviews, show them how your experience fits, even if it's a bit outside the box.
It's all about connecting those dots, right? Showing them how your past, even if it seems unrelated, prepared you for this.
You got it. And never underestimate passion, that genuine interest. If you can show them you're excited about this, eager to learn, that goes a long way.
This deep dive has been incredible. We went from picturing procurement support officers as like paper pushers to strategic masterminds, negotiators, compliance detectives, even ethical superheroes. Who knew?
That's the beauty of it, right? It's always evolving, always new challenges, chances to specialize, to move up, and to really make a difference.
So for anyone out there feeling that spark, that intrigue, what's your biggest piece of advice, your golden nugget of wisdom?
Don't just sit there. Go out there, explore, do your homework, connect with people in the field, see if it clicks. You never know, you might just find your calling.
I love it. A call to action. A reminder that there's a world of possibilities out there for those brave enough to chase them. And hey, with resources like RoleCatcher, you've got the tools, you've got the guidance.
So that's it for our deep dive into the world of procurement support officers. A career path full of surprises, challenges, and let's be real, some pretty awesome rewards. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.